on? Do you know ball?
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 Do you know ball? Episode 43, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's been a minute, but I'm back with Zach, and we have a special guest today, our brand new football representative. We have my dear friend from college, Aiden. Aiden, say hi.
What's up, guys?
This
I'm
is
trying to see if
Aiden.
I know ball.
Yeah, he definitely knows ball more than someone else on this podcast.
He who shall not be named.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Screw that last guy. We have a new guy here, and he's
Last guy was a
perfect.
bozo.
Last guy was a bozo, but now Aiden's a part of the Do You Know Ball Club, the fam. And now we're just going to get right into it. All right, so you guys ready to talk some ball today?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, TikTok is about to die, so feel free to follow us here on YouTube or Instagram, and you can keep up with our clips. So without further ado, let's talk about the first topic. Let's talk about Roki Sasaki. Roki Sasaki, Japanese ace, young phenom, has narrowed down the final three teams, and those are the Dodgers, Padres, and Blue Jays. Now, boys, I want to get your opinion before we actually go further with this. Where do you think he's signing, and why is it the Dodgers?
Zach, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So, I I think honestly, before reports came out that he could potentially be working out in Padres clothes, Padres gear, whatever. But regardless, I think that he's going to the Dodgers. There's too much there for him not to pass up on that opportunity. And not to mention that if he does go to the Dodgers, that rotation is the best in baseball. There's nothing if as long as it stays healthy, it is the best in baseball. There's no questions asked. Snell, Yamamoto, um,
Otani,
Otani. Now you got
Glasnow,
Glasnow, and
and
then
Sasaki.
Sasaki. That's dude. Like what? Who's competing with that? Nobody. That's
You
the
can't.
answer. It's the best rotation in baseball. So he has an opportunity to do something special and create that madhouse because no matter what pitcher you face, truthfully, in that lineup, once Sasaki goes there, it's just wraps. Like no other team really stands to compete against them. But you know what? I if he does go to the Dodgers are probably looking at another World Series run.
Mhm.
As if they weren't already by signing Blake Snell. But yeah. So the Dodgers become an all out powerhouse. But what I really want him to go to is the Padres. I think he's still got an equal opportunity there to do something special. Padres have been on the cusp of being a really good team for years now. So he could put them over the edge. He gets them where they need to go, and that is the World Series. They need to be there. It's only a matter of time. But I think the Padres are a better fit, mainly because I don't want to see the Dodgers be as stacked as they are. But
Mhm.
that's my take on it. I don't know, Aiden. What do you think?
Well, you narrowed the final three down. I was a little surprised to see the Blue Jays. Well, personally, I've always taken them as like a Mickey Mouse team. They're not really going to beat out any of the big powerhouses in the
Mhm.
AL East, like the Red Sox, which aren't having the best of times. The Yankees, which are like hot. They're a Soto gone away now, but flexing his ring. But I kind of wanted to see him go to the Padres. The Padres are kind of like a Roki Sasaki away from a World Series run. I mean, they had a lead on the Dodgers in this playoff run, and then they blew it. And then with a Roki Sasaki, that could all change. If they
Yeah.
goes to the Dodgers, I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I kind of feel like I thought that would happen from the beginning. It's where Otani is, his Japanese friend, and it looks like it could be Yankees versus Japan World Series, and
Pretty much.
that's what I'm thinking. I really didn't. I never had a doubt that it was not going to be the Dodgers from the beginning. So
Mhm. Yeah. I'll speak on my opinion too now. I would love it to be the Padres simply just because, the Dodgers clear favorites. They get everyone and anyone they want. I'm not going to say they're ruining baseball because they're not. Like, I mean, you go out there, you every team can make a presentation. There were over 20 teams in on Sasaki. Every team had the opportunity to prepare and bring some of their players, and the Dodgers are just the top of the pack every time. I mean, it's hard to obviously the decision is not made yet. For all we know, Sasaki could be a Blue Jay, he could be a Padre, but we all pretty much figure he's going to be a Dodger. I think it's like the worst kept secret possible. But when you just come off winning a World Series on top of also having Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto on your team, if you're Roki Sasaki, that's really hard to say no to. Like that's just such an attractive situation. And you have an ownership, you have a front office that shows willingness to spend and compete and do whatever they can every year. You're I mean, I just named Yamamoto and Shohei. Zach just went over the entire rotation. We didn't even mention Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts. They still have them, and they still have other all-star caliber players. Will Smith, they have Teoscar Hernandez. That team is just loaded from top to bottom. So I'm not going to say they're ruining baseball because, like I said, any team can go out and do what the Dodgers are doing. It's just they're not doing it. The Dodgers are just doing it at a top tier level. And as painful as it is, being a Yankees fan and just seeing the Dodgers continue to get better and the Yankees losing like Juan Soto, the Dodgers are just going to continue to be a powerhouse. I would love it to be the Padres, not so much the Blue Jays because obviously same division as the Yankees, but Padres, I agree, are potentially a Roki Sasaki away from being a World Series contender. I still think that the Padres are a contender, but you add a Sasaki and that changes the entire landscape of the game for the Padres.
They do. It does. And just to quickly touch on them, I know obviously we all said Blue Jays are a finalist. Let's be real. I mean the Blue Jays just don't have enough, which is why it's going to lead us into our next topic too. But the Blue Jays just don't have enough to compete with other teams
Mm-hmm.
in general, and he can't look at the Blue Jays really and then look at the other two teams on the board and be like, "Oh, Blue Jays got more than what I'm looking for in the other teams." Like it's just not going
Yeah.
to happen. And props for the Blue Jays for trying. It's just not how it's going to
Yeah.
crumble. But
But it is interesting though that he put them in the finalists. I don't know why Sasaki never really gave, and his camp never really gave
yeah.
any information as to why these are the finalists. We just know that these are. So it
Mhm.
is pretty interesting that obviously the Dodgers and Padres being the West Coast competitive teams, but it is really interesting seeing the Blue Jays in there. I don't know why. Is Canada close to Japan? I know that's why a lot of the Japanese players like to go to LA and California, but I don't know. Maybe he likes Canada. Maybe he likes the poutine there. Who knows? But hey, props to the Blue Jays. They'll miss out on him probably, but hey.
Yeah, I think they're gonna miss end up missing out on him. It's just how it is. The Dodgers and Padres both have more to offer than the Blue Jays. But that kind of leads us into the next topic, and the next topic is Pete Alonso and just the whole drama that is within Pete Alonso and the Mets and what he's gonna do, what they're gonna do if he signs somewhere else. And that is just like Alonso, Alonso and the Mets. I've said this the last pod or the last time we talked about it. They're playing a dangerous game with each other. I think the Mets more so than Alonso because Alonso's camp offered the Mets the only team to do, by the way, the only team they offered this to. They offered the Mets a 3-year deal with opt-outs. Now, I'm assuming that the deal will be high AAV, but it's they offered something on the table. Like and the Mets aren't even jumping on it. Like I'm really confused at the moment because I feel like the reuniting of Alonso and the Mets is just a matter of time, matter of when, not if. But it seems like they're just trying to push him away more and more. And the more and more that happens, the more and more things come out of the woodwork. So I looked up a lot of things before the podcast, and some reports were saying that the most likely option to happen would be that if Alonso signs elsewhere, the Mets would look within the organization. They just put Vientos to first, and then have either Brett Beatty, Acuna, or Ronnie Mauricio. Either one of those three, those guys will man the infield somewhere, like second, third, whatever. Mainly, specifically the corners, because that's where the help is going to be needed. But besides that, outside of that little bubble of players they have within their organization, they've been looking at Santander. Santander was rumored with the Yankees to play first base for a little while, maybe as a potential suit. But if that happens, do we really want to stick Santander at first base? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that's the best option. But aside from that, too, more news came out today, and saying it was a breaking story, kind of developing. The Mets could potentially put a trade package together for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, I'd be all ears to this. I'm down. I'm 100% down. But again, it's kind of like Soto last year. And I know Matt, you went through it. He played with the team for the year and then got his contract at the end. So, is Vladimir Guerrero going to do the same thing? I don't know. I don't specifically know, but he's only under contract for 1 year.
Mhm.
So you got to think like, are the Mets gonna be willing to put together a pretty decent trade package? I mean, he's only on a contract for 1 year, so you can't expect Toronto to ask for too much. But at the same time, they're gonna want to get as much as they can out of for Vlad. So if this were to happen, can you see a Mets Guerrero kind of move happen within the next couple months or so? I'm just curious to your thoughts. Do you think it would happen?
Don't. Ian, you
Yeah.
want to go?
I was going to ask you, you're the Mets fan. Would you rather have Alonso or would you rather have Vladimir Guerrero Jr.?
If we could get him long term, I'd rather have Vlad. But at the moment, it doesn't seem likely because I think he's going to want to try out free agency. And so, with that in mind, I'd rather have Alonso for 3 years or more than Vlad for 1 year. And because it just doesn't help the team out for the future.
Hmm.
That
Well,
that's my thought process on it.
John Heyman actually tweeted as you were talking, and I was just reading it. Mets and Pete keep talking as the team pushes for a quick resolution. So that honestly might just kill any and all Vlad talks with that single tweet. That's that's quite the timing, isn't it?
They want that's the thing. Him Alonso and the Mets, they both want to be with each other. Like
Yeah.
he wants to sign there. The Mets want him back. The Mets like him. He likes the Mets. It's as simple as that. It's just a deal is just not getting done, and I don't
Hmm.
understand where the disconnect is at all. He's just not getting the money that he wants, or not. I don't even think it's money. It's like it's years. It's not the money. It's years. He's not getting the years that he wants. And he wants like a lengthy contract, 7 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy. For Pete
and the
Alonso,
Mets
it's
won't
crazy.
budge. The
Hmm.
Mets won't budge. And I can't say I blame them, but I mean they offered. He offered. His camp offered a 3 year deal.
Hmm.
Why not jump on that? I don't understand. I don't get what the hesitation is. If it's high AAV, if it makes him for whatever reason the highest paid first baseman like yearly wise, whatever. I don't care. I don't really give two shits. Like
Hmm.
I just want something to happen so that we know what's going to happen for the future. I want to
Yeah.
go into 2025 with a first baseman. That's what I want to do. I don't want
Hmm.
to worry about Mark Vientos messing up at first base and then we have Brett Beatty running around third base. Like, I don't want that. I don't want to go through that again. Pete Alonso is what I want. Is
Hmm.
truthfully what I want.
Yeah. I think you guys will get Pete Alonso back. I think the Vlad talks are just well, I don't think Vlad's gonna get traded, at least not this offseason.
Yeah, me
I
neither.
yeah, I don't think he'll be a Blue Jay next year. I think he's gonna be gone just because the Blue Jays have so many problems they have to worry about. So whether Vlad is traded at this year's deadline, or just maybe another point in the season. I just don't think he's going to get traded before the season starts because who knows, man? Yankees could fall off, Red Sox could get hurt, and then Bo and Vlad have great years, and then all of a sudden the Blue Jays are back in wild card contention, and then there's no need to trade Vlad. But I do think Pete Alonso and the Mets just make sense. It's just really trying to find that sweet spot of the AAV and the years. Clearly, Boris and Alonso are just trying to play the Mets card and the loyalty, the homegrown Steve Cohen card as well. All those factors together, to me, in my eyes, will make me think that Pete Alonso will be a Met. And I won't lie, at work, I got the Guerrero notifications, and I was terrified because not only do I absolutely hate the New York Mets, but it just makes sense. Why? Don't shake your head. That's my opinion. I don't like the
I
Mets.
just don't understand. Like, what did we do to you?
You do to me is why I don't like the
You
Mets.
do to me is why I
Like,
don't like the Yankees. It's the
see,
same
see,
thing.
see how you mentioned the Yankees were not even mentioned in this topic, and you just brought them up. Anyway, they're anyway, but I was trying to compliment the Mets. Like it just makes sense, Vlad, to be on the Mets, right? Like younger. You just got Soto. Maybe you could pair these two young studs in Soto and Vlad long term, and then on top of that, you have Francisco Lindor, who, fun fact, has never been an All Star as a Met. I just wanted to point that out. Um, and then you got that's not a shot. That's just a fun fact.
No, I know, and
Mhm.
you just gathered that information the other day, but we don't need to get
No,
into
I've
that.
I've known that for so long. I just thought
Okay,
it was funny.
all right.
It was just reiterated the other day, and it's like been fresh in my mind because it's like, damn, how has this good of a player never been an all star? You know what I mean? It's crazy,
It's
right?
as crazy as him not winning a Gold Glove.
Do you think that speaking of that, Anthony Volpe has a Gold Glove? I was going to mention Anthony Volpe. Do you think Anthony Volpe will be an all star before Lindor is on the Mets? I
Dear
think
God,
there's a
I hope not, because your head will go from like it's already here to
It's
out
not.
here.
I think,
No, it
like,
will.
all bias aside, I think there's a very good shot Anthony Volpe is an all-star before Francisco Lindor is for the Mets. And that's just because with all due respect, Lindor deserves to be an all-star. Like, he MVP, that's the only thing I don't like about baseball is like you can be MVP and not be all-star. Like Bryce Harper 2, 3 years ago was the NL MVP, but was not an all-star. And Francisco Lindor was the runner-up in MVP voting, but was not an all. Like that just doesn't make sense. But baseball's a weird sport. Like that's just kind of how it happens. But without further ado, I forgot what I was just sorry.
I
Yankees.
I
My
got
mind was
one
all over the
more
place.
I got one
Yeah.
more thing to add
Sure.
specifically towards Vlad,
Okay.
in that him in the contract negotiations with him and the Blue Jays, he told the Blue Jays recently that if the Blue Jays can't come to where he wants like a $450 million contract extension. That's per Bob Nightingale.
And he'll
So
probably get it from whether it's the
he
Blue Jays or another team. He'll probably get it.
yeah, that's what he wants, right? But the Blue Jays and him aren't really seeing eye to eye, and the Blue Jays have until the first day of spring training to make a decision on whether or not they want to extend him before he's gonna stop talking about contract extensions. As soon as the first full day of spring training it happens, goes through it, he's done talking about contract extensions until the end of the year, which means that 100% confirms he's going to be a free agent and he's going to test out the market, and who knows what his final contract is going to be.
Yeah.
So
I I just found out Vlad is actually Canadian. Did you know that?
I did not.
I did not.
Yeah, I just looked him up, and apparently he was born in Canada. So maybe he just wants to stay home. Um, he is Dominican, but he's also Canadian.
Well,
So,
he's giving the Blue Jays a chance here.
mhm,
He's truthfully giving them a chance, but they just don't want to pay him, and I guess that really just shows on where their heads at for the future.
mhm,
And if he goes, then there's really not much to that team besides Bo. And I
mhm,
don't know his contract details at the moment or anything like that. But you got to think like if Vlad goes, then Bo's probably going to be following suit
yeah.
eventually. Maybe not the next couple years. He may be locked down. I don't know his details, but you got to
Uh,
think that he'll probably follow suit eventually.
Bo's a free agent in 2026. But he's like
So
signed on an extension.
yeah,
Wait,
so he'll probably, if he's signed till 2026, like you said, he'll probably play that out and then he'll leave too.
is that not technically just next season? Isn't he?
That is technically next season.
Yeah.
So Bo and Vlad are free agents after this season. So I think Bo is very likely to get traded in my eyes. Vlad, I don't know, but Bo I think is very likely. Um,
I think the Blue Jays just got to do a whole complete remodel of the team because
mhm,
they if you look back a few years back when they had Simeon, Teoscar, and like all those guys and that pitching rotation, they had Robbie Ray as a
Chapman.
Cy Young chap. Dude, they had a freaking squad and they just couldn't put it together. And I thought they were one of the favorites to win, but I don't even think that year they even made the postseason.
No, they
I,
did. They missed out by like one
they
game.
missed out. They missed out, and they were like a 90 win team.
They,
So
they were one of those like what the Detroit Tigers were this year. That's what the Blue Jays were that year. Like they were
yeah.
like this really fun underdog team, and it sucks. The one year they had Marcus Simeon play like an absolute stud MVP player. It sucks that they weren't able to make the postseason. But
It was
hey, I
strange.
don't care.
It was
I'm a Yankee
strange.
fan. So
But we can move on to the next topic. Matt, you want to introduce it?
yeah, so now we're gonna get to the football topics. We haven't talked football in a big minute. I think the last time we talked football was when Daniel Jones got released by the Giants, I think. So it's been a big minute, but this is why we got our boy Aiden here. Aiden is a football. He's our football analyst. You ready, Aiden? You ready to talk some?
Absolutely.
All
I'm
right.
ready.
So we have a couple playoff games we want to go down, and then we have a couple opinion topics. So without further ado, let's start with the first topic, which is why you viewers have probably clicked on this video. The Rams and Vikings game. Let's talk about that. Is Sam Darnold a fraud? That's going to be the first question I want to ask. Right? They had a 14 win season. I believe it was 14 wins, just down the drain. And me and Zach actually watched this game a little bit, not the entire game because it was just over. We all just pretty much knew it was over. So, Aiden, I don't know if you watched the entirety of the game or if you even watched the game at all, but from your perspective, what is your take on how the Vikings lost or what's next for them going forward? And you can even give your input on the Rams going forward in the postseason.
Well, I think the Vikings have a really big hole in their gap in that QB spot to fill in. That is whether or not they want to keep Sam Darnold after these past two games. It wasn't just this playoff game against the Rams. Last week against the Lions, he also
Mhm.
had, I mean, and you could call it a bad game, but this game against the Rams he didn't do too bad. He threw 245, but he did throw a pick. So the offense that we saw from the Vikings almost all season just didn't do anything. TJ Hawkinson was their only touchdown scorer, and Justin Jefferson, 58 yards. That's to me, that's he got clamped. Jordan Addison, who's been like a star and like a breakout from what he has been clamped. Everybody clamped. Aaron Jones couldn't even get it going for not even 50 yards. So to me, I think I can't really blame this on the coach because you have had Kevin O'Connell in the coach of the year conversations, but the Vikings, I think they are frauds for what they have right now. It's like they had a great season for what they had on their team, but I think they still need more to build. Their offense is great. I know that going into the offseason, a lot of their defensive players they're going to be broken up. There's a lot of expiring contracts, and I've heard a couple of people might retire. So on their side, I mean, apart from these past two games, they've had a good season, but that Lions game maybe sent them the wrong way, and then coming into LA, it just couldn't compete. And the Rams were something else. But what do you? I don't know. I think Sam Darnold isn't the guy. I think JJ McCarthy, and he tweeted this after Sam Darnold's LA game. He said something in that end, and I think it was something about fate. I read this a couple days ago, but he's some that might be cryptic message for his time is now. What do you think?
Hmm. I think that JJ is going to be the full-time QB. That just makes sense to me. I mean, you drafted him, are you going to really pay what is Darnold projected like 40 million? Like are you going to pay
Something like that. Yeah.
you going to pay Sam Darnold 40 million a year? It's like I think you should just give it to JJ. Let him progress. Let him develop. But then it raises questions. What's next for Darnold? I mean, do people really care about Darnold? What's up with is Justin Jefferson? Are there going to be any rumblings with him? He looked pretty upset after the game, and I see people chatter on Twitter. So it's something that we need to bring up. Is Justin Jefferson is his time in Minnesota coming to an end soon? Whether it's this upcoming season, the season after, like you think that's a legitimate think we should talk about?
I think Darnold at the same time, if you keep him on the team, you kind of have to have him as a starter because he won't just accept the role of benching and or like being a mentor to JJ McCarthy, which is why I think you can't waste the draft pick that you had with JJ. I wouldn't be opposed to having him sit under Darnold for another year or two. I'm a Packers fan, so that's how we've developed our quarterbacks. We have them sit under QBs,
Hmm.
but that's not a bad option, but the money won't be there for him.
Zach?
Look, the whole Sam Darnold situation with the Vikings is just it kind of shocked me, but at the same time, I saw a lot of reactions afterwards, and I kind of agree with the other people because they were saying that you could take Sam Darnold away from the Jets, but you can't take the Jets away from Sam Darnold, if that makes any sense to you guys. Pretty much, he just
I
chokes. He just chokes he choked away his opportunity to really solidify himself as the QB for this team going forward.
And
I
to maybe
think
make some money too. To maybe make some money too. Yeah.
maybe because maybe teams will look at him and be like, he could do good in the regular season, but maybe can't perform in the playoffs, or maybe this was just a fluke year in total, and he's not going to be able to replicate it again. There's a lot of factors you have to piece in here, but I low key though, I really do think some team, someone's gonna go out and sign Sam Darnold. I don't think it's the Vikings because I think the most obvious thing for them is obviously to just fall right into JJ McCarthy. I think that's just how it's gonna. They drafted him. They wanted him to I think that he was the goal to be their QB at the start of the year before he got hurt. Um,
I
and he
think
looked
so.
pretty solid too in preseason. He looked pretty good. Um, so I think that's what they're just gonna do now. They're just gonna fall right into him, and that's gonna be what's next with the QB situation for the time coming. As for Jefferson, he could go elsewhere. I don't know if he's truthfully happy anymore to be a Viking. Maybe at the start he was, but after losing a couple times in the playoffs, it could be really gut wrenching, and maybe he just wants a just change of scenery. That's really it. Maybe that's all he wants. And there's a
Cowboy?
specific, yeah, I was just about to say, there's a specific team that he could potentially go to,
Jerry Jones wake up?
but I don't know. I don't know how that's gonna go over. The Vikings are definitely gonna fight for him, of course. But as the only thing that's simple to digest with the Vikings after this season is they're just gonna go with JJ McCarthy. If they
Mhm.
decide to get Darnold back, that would shock me because if you're gonna pay this guy all this money just to be eventually become like a backup, it'd just be a stupid deal. But aside from that, the game wise, I mean, the game was over when Kyron Williams scored that first touchdown. That the game was over right then and there. They looked horrible. They had a few calls that didn't really go their way. There was a that pass sort of forward from Matthew Stafford that that they called a certain way. Maybe it should have been a fumble, and maybe it should have been 6 points going the other way because that would have changed the game dramatically if the points went to the Viking side. That would have been a 10-10 game, and we're looking at a whole different ball game. But
Mhm.
the Rams just overpowered them, and to be honest, the Rams didn't even use like they used Puka. I don't remember what he finished with, but he had that one like 26-yard catch in the beginning of the game, and he was pretty quiet for the most part. I mean, he probably ramped it up. I think he ramped it up eventually towards the end. Cooper Cup didn't have any targets in the first half. No targets. So, is that a testament to how much the Rams are better than the Vikings? I guess so. But that's why they deserve to move on. That's why they deserve to move on. So, again, for the Vikings, let's just see what they do coming up in the future. But as for right now, they're going home and the Rams are moving on.
I
That's
think
all
they
I gotta
bounce
say
back.
about that.
I
You
think they
think they
bounce
do?
back, the Vikings. Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold, they really got along. And I guess you can, he threw, I mean, bad last two games or not, this was Sam Darnold's best year. And I guess he wasn't really limited by the Jets this time. He had a championship contending team. And they could have been the one, they were a game away from the one seed, which could have honestly decided their fate if that game went
Mhm.
differently. So I think by the Rams, they didn't outperform them on offense. I say they probably performed equally, but it was that defense. They tied the playoff record for sacks in that game on Sam Darnold with 9. That's just insane. Didn't even have the old Aaron Donald anymore. That's
Mhm.
just pure O line collapse in the playoffs. And this was the game that mattered for the Vikings. So the Rams, I think the Rams are in a good spot. If their offense didn't get going as much as they did behind Stafford, Stafford did good, but I think if they get it going next week, then that's even better because their offense is high powered.
Yeah. I want to touch on, you said they were one game away from the one seed. I don't know if you guys saw, but the NFL was potentially talking about maybe changing how the seeding works. Instead of making it based off like the divisions and winners, they might do it based off like winning percentages, or it was something along those lines. So that way a team like the Vikings, for example, don't get screwed kind of the way they did. But at the end of the day, you got to be prepared. You got to be ready. Me and Zach actually worked the first Giants game. I think opening day or something, first Giants game at MetLife was against the Vikings. And I remember Sam Darnold absolutely cooking the Giants. And remember, Zach, we thought the Giants had a shot. We were like, oh, they should win. Sam Darnold, no.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
Nah,
We actually did think they were gonna win. But
we
at
did.
the same time, I think that was us just really, I mean, not that we ever really had faith in the Giants to do something this
We
year.
didn't know they were going to be as ass as they were.
I mean, yeah, they
Yeah.
were really ass, and might I add, what a 100th year they had. That one of the worst seasons ever, and that's just what they put on the field. They got a lot of questions, but that's probably a topic for another day.
That we don't yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's down the line.
Aside from that, let's just move on swiftly into the next topic, which is the Texans and
Mhm.
how they shocked the Chargers. I Let me tell you this, I didn't think they were gonna win. I thought they had no chance against the Chargers. Thought it was easy pickings for the Chargers to take this one, but Herbert was the main story in the game, and it just fell apart. He just crumbled, and he's been there before. You would think maybe this year he'd come back with some vengeance, but no. Like he couldn't even, and it wasn't even like C.J. Stroud and the Texans offense like did something special. It was the defense that really carried them in the game. I mean, you got to think too. Texans don't have, they didn't have Tank Dell and they didn't have Stephon Diggs, which are two of their key guys on offense. So not having those two players and still pulling out the win. I think they won 36-12. How Herbert let that happen? Obviously, four picks. That's how he let it happen. So it just all fell apart. I don't know what was going on in that game, why he kept throwing interceptions, and why he let a Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell list Texans win the game. I don't get that. But Aiden, I honestly my question for you is obviously what does LA and Herbert have to do to get over that hump to win a playoff game? What needs to happen?
LA, Justin Herbert, right before that last pick he threw, was all I heard. Or, well, maybe it wasn't the last pick. One of the picks that he threw, all I heard from the commentators was, "Oh, Justin Herbert's been so great at decision making this year." Okay, probably a commentator's curse or whatever. But four picks, if even if you want to give him credit for like maybe the receiver dropped one and he got another, you can't throw four picks in a game like that. And going forward, Justin Herbert still has to be your guy. I mean, you just got Harbaugh as a coach, maybe I think it was a year ago, and now he's going to have to take a little bit to mesh with Herbert. This was by no means a bad season for the Chargers because they made the playoffs and they probably should have won this game. I had them winning this game. The Texans defense was just better and their running game was non-existent. Herbert only saw Lad McConkey. Lad McConkey dropped 197 yards. That's almost tunnel vision for Herbert, but that's just I feel like it was not only their defense that just folded, but everybody on that team folded, and Herbert was at the center of it.
Mhm. Yep. I want to talk about Justin Herbert. Aiden, I feel like I've said this to you before. I might have said this to Zach. I know I've said this to Johnny, the other bum that we have officially kicked off the podcast. But I've definitely said it before that I am one of the biggest Justin Herbert haters. Aiden, have you ever heard me say that? I feel like I have.
Yeah, you've said that before.
And my reasoning is because people tell me how good this guy is, but every time I actually watch him, he just sucks. And I've watched a couple, like a very few amount of Justin Herbert games in my career. And legitimately, it's so impressive how ass he is every time I watch him. And maybe that's just insane luck that every time I turn on the TV, he just decides to be terrible. But I have never once actually watched Justin Herbert be good. I'm sorry. I'm not saying he's not good. That's just literally anytime I get to do the eye test and see for myself, let me like get a dip of that jelly in the jar. It's expired. Like he like that. That's what Justin Herbert is to me. He's the expired jelly in the jar. Like the little like you guys are going for like the good part, the actual jelly, and I'm digging up like the crust at the bottom. That's how I view Justin Herbert. I'm not saying he's not good at football. It's just I'm just one of his biggest haters. Simple as that.
This definitely was probably his like most god awful game. So you definitely got unlucky
Mhm.
because yeah.
And and then going back to like years ago, right, against the Jaguars, right? Remember they blew that
Yeah.
that just I was floating during that game. Like I was legitimately like full like all my limbs were just off the ground watching that game.
Do you
He,
have like an actual reason why you hate
yeah, he
Justin
just
Herbert, or
I
you
just
just
I just don't think he's good at football. Well, based off the eye test, I don't think he's
that's
good.
not really a reason though,
That's
but
my reason.
okay.
People try and force down my throat. And I'm not you guys, but I'm just saying like people in general try and force down my throat that Justin Herbert is like this god tier quarterback. But then when I try and do the eye test, I see for myself, I just every time I watch him play, he just sucks. And like I said, that's probably just insane luck. Maybe I don't hate him. Maybe I just think he's super overrated. Maybe that's a better term I should say. Based off
It
what I've
probably
seen,
is.
I think Justin Herbert is a little overrated based off the eye test. So that sucks to suck, but
I'll
They
touch
just
on
really.
oh
Oh no,
good.
good, good.
I was gonna say I want to touch on one thing because you talked about Justin Herbert. I don't know about your opinion on CJ Stroud.
hmm
And
oh,
I
I
think
love
earlier
yeah,
you love him.
I
I
love
was gonna say
CJ.
earlier you said I wouldn't say because you said they didn't really have a special game. I'd honestly say the opposite, and it was because of their defense that they had a really special game because everything worked on the running game, everything was working in the air, and how you said it, they're missing two of probably their top three receivers. They're missing two of their top three receivers, and so I wouldn't say they're Super Bowl bound yet. They might shock me, and I might have like this might come back to haunt me. They're not going to win a Super Bowl this year. They have to get through Kansas City, Buffalo, and Baltimore, but I'd say CJ Stroud is good. Better than Herbert, I'd say. Definitely.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
I could name like 40 quarterbacks better than Justin Herbert at this point.
Look, they got a tough task though, ahead of them. The Chiefs are gonna not gonna be an easy game to say the least. Mahomes almost every year just finds a way to win, and I'm kind of sick of it. I have my own pick that I want to win this. Maybe we should do that. Maybe at the end of the podcast when we're done with all the topics, we should just each of us say who we want to win the Super Bowl.
Mahomes in one. That's my goat.
Why? Why?
You don't like
This guy
Mahomes?
Glaze. That's just
Yeah, like
glaze.
Aiden knows
why
I love
Mahomes?
Mahomes, man. He's the GOAT.
Why like but why again? Like I'm
Why
so sick and tired of Mahomes winning, honestly.
why hate on greatness? You like LeBron.
I mean, yeah.
Why hate on greatness? Right?
I don't know, man. I just want to see something different. I don't even want them in the if they make it to the championship game, fine, by all means. But if they make it to the Super Bowl again, I have to gouge my eyes out. Like it's just it's I'm so sick of the Chiefs winning. But regardless, the Texans have a tough matchup ahead of them. I don't really see again, same scenarios apply. They don't have Diggs. They don't have Dell. I unless they have a terrific game on defense again and like everything goes their way, they really should not win this next game against the Chiefs. But in the playoffs, and especially in the playoffs for any sport, anything's possible.
And especially
Anything's
against the
possible.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
Because I mean
Yeah.
they're see this whole season, look at the regular season. They only won like almost over half their games by one possession.
hmm
That's probably I mean, as you can't say it's their worst season because they finished with just two losses. I almost said one. I forgot they got blown out, but they didn't play their starters. So you could really just say they only had one loss. I'd honestly say Mahomes hasn't done anything noteworthy this year. Rather, his defense is just carrying. his entire like career right now on their back because he's not good at all this year.
I should have looked up his interceptions because I feel like he threw a lot of interceptions this year. But you know
I think he
what?
threw
I
11. He
11?
threw 11, 26 and 11.
Is
Wow.
that you could correct me if I'm wrong, Aiden? Is that not a lot from, especially from Holmes? Is that not a lot of interceptions?
That's about average for him. I think what was really bad for him was he only threw 26 touchdowns. And I know he
Hmm.
doesn't have a lot of weapons though in this year. Maybe he has Kelsey. He injured his number one receiver on his own this year. And yeah, but he's 26. It's different because used to average around like 38 to 40. So this is just an off year. Last year he also averaged he put 27 last year. So he didn't have a good year last year either. But the Chiefs in the playoffs somehow get it done. It's like I don't know how.
Yeah, we'll see what's gonna happen with them, but I do want to give you the floor for this next one, and just tell us what your thoughts are on the Eagles and the Packers game, and what the Packers are gonna be looking like in the future. Just go ham. This is all you. This is
For
a topic
context,
dedicated for you.
for context, viewers, Aiden is a Packers fan. There you
Yep.
go.
I'm a Packers fan. So let's put even more context into this. I'm driving to the airport. This is the funniest part. It'll all come back later. I'm driving to the airport and I turn the game on for kickoff. And it's like something 4:39. And I watch that opening kickoff and I watch the returner fumble the ball and I almost instantly turn my phone off for like 10, 15 minutes because I was not going to watch another Packer playoff crumble. Uh
I
I got to
texted
watch
you
it.
during that.
You
Yeah,
did. I got to watch it before got on the plane and then I watched it on the plane for some of it. And no, that was Jordan Love's not my man. Oh, he might be my man, but he definitely doesn't deserve 40 million a year. And I think he's like what up there in the top five highest paid quarterbacks.
yeah, I think so. I'll look it up just for fun.
We have a wide receiver depth core. I'll say that we have great receivers. They're all young. They're all going to develop together. Jordan Love is young. He's going to be able to get like chemistry between them. Our defense, okay, Jair Alexander was injured, but we still had like I would say a top six, top seven defense. We were there. But I mean, losing that last game to the Bears probably is what cooked us. If we had won that game, we wouldn't have been up against the number two seed Eagles. We'd have played the Rams. I'd probably much rather have had the Rams than the Eagles because I'm not an Eagles hater. You're a Cowboys fan, so you probably despise the Eagles.
Hate them with a
I'm no Eagles
passion.
hater. And I think Jalen Hurts, maybe I don't like Jalen Hurts, but I like Saquon. I think Saquon deserves a ring. Obviously, my Packers are first, though. I wanted them to get another ring, but I think we have a lot more work to do. We definitely Aaron Jones losing going to the Vikings last year hurt me until I saw Josh Jacobs, and I think we didn't really use Josh Jacobs to that game as much as I think I wanted them to. He kind of had to be like front and center because of Eagles defense hasn't been bad. I don't know how great they've been. I haven't followed their defense specifically, but we definitely did all the wrong things. Matt LaFleur, I'm not sure how to feel about him right now. I mean, we got to the playoffs. I mean, we were guaranteed to go to the playoffs in like a division like us. We had not really a division like us, but we had the record for like so many weeks and then catastrophic crumble. And I'm used to it. I haven't seen my Packers get past an NFC championship and we're at least we didn't face the 49ers this time. I'm very happy. No 49ers. I was very happy. But we have so there's the Vikings I wouldn't have been worried about. The Lions, I don't think I would have seen us getting past the Lions. I didn't really see us getting past the Eagles. We lost barely to them in week one, but that was Jordan Love got hurt, but he also got hurt in the last second. So it was to me, it was a winnable game, but I really couldn't see us like being like the big favorite in that game.
Yeah. No, I thought it was definitely a winnable game for you guys as well. Um, but in terms, I'm just gonna add as much as I can to this because again, I've said this many times on the pod. Football is not really my forte, but I try to keep up with it as much as possible. I think Jordan Love, obviously, like you said, you got a lot of holes or a lot of things to work on per se, for the future. I agree with that, but I do think it's a matter of learning for Jordan Love. Jordan Love's still a young quarterback. He's still got to go through get some more battle scars before, you may touch the Super Bowl and stuff like that. I think it's in the future. I think there's a good core there. But with a few additions, maybe you could just squeak your way to the Super Bowl because you got a good team. The Packers are a good team, and I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a fight than it was. Jordan Love really couldn't get much going, and like the Packers offense really wasn't really there in like the first half or so. They struggled a bit, but you know, it was definitely a winnable game. You could have easily beaten the Eagles. I expected it more to be like a score to score type game like that, but
Mhm.
stuff happens. He's gonna learn from it. He's gonna grow from it. And we'll just see where he ends up, or where the Packers end up going down the line. Matt, you wanna fill
Yeah.
in?
Just remember, no one has it worse than me. I'm a Cowboys fan. Just gonna put that out there. No, I'm just kidding. Packers, beat the Cowboys what, like last year, 2 years ago, what was it? Yeah. That
Last
wasn't
year,
great. That wasn't great. That's how I felt during that game. I imagine that's kind of how you probably felt watching the Eagles Packers game. I literally I was like live texting you during the events, and I said something along the lines of like, dude, if this was the Cowboys, I would be tweaking. Like I would be twitching like so crazy. And it honestly felt like they were just giving the Eagles everything, but it is what it is, man. The Eagles are no diss to the Packers, but the Eagles are just they're a well constructed team. They're very good. Saquon and you got Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. Like they got a very solid squad. Um, but I also do want to say, for some reason, I saw a lot of people on like TikTok and Twitter saying that the Packers were their dark horse team to win the Super Bowl. So I was like, maybe there's a shot. There's a shot, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. Not this year, but next year, as you guys were saying, Jordan Love can come back stronger and better. By the way, looked it up. Top three in quarterback salary. I think it's Dak, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, GOAT, Dak, Joe Burrow, and then Jordan Love. So as long as the Packers they come back next year, I have faith in Jordan Love. I really do. Not just because he was one of my fantasy quarterbacks, but I like the guy. How can you not like Jordan Love? I still think it's there. He didn't have the best season this year. I think he was either average or below average in terms of all of his stats. But I definitely think next year he's gonna be a lot better. And that could just be wishful thinking, but I just think Jordan Love has the capabilities. He's shown flashes. It's just, is he gonna do it on like a consistent basis next season? We're gonna find out. So I feel for you,
Mhm.
Aiden, because I felt your pain so many times. Actually, every year of my life, I feel your pain, and I'm a
okay.
little happy that the Cowboys did not make the postseason because now like I don't have to go through that pain. You know what I mean? The
No, I don't know what you mean.
like
Not
like
really. Not
like
making the playoffs.
like the inevitable pain of just knowing like your team will make the postseason but not win anything. Like that's the Cowboys
That
mantra.
that's the worst logic.
That's the Cowboys
That
mantra.
yeah.
That's the worst logic ever.
That's the Cowboys. Dude, you have to realize no one has it worse than me. So like every time my teams
Stop
make
it. Stop.
dog, the
Stop it.
Yankees, the Yankees
Make the
just
playoffs
lost
every year.
did they win? Did
Every
they win
year
the World? They
they
just
made the
they just
World
lost the
Series.
World Series.
Okay. Okay. Granted, yes, they did just lose the
They just
World
lost the
Series.
World Series. The
You
Nets are the
get to
worst
watch
team in
playoff baseball
basketball.
every year.
Did they win
Okay?
though?
You get
Did
to
they
watch
win?
playoff baseball
It's a
every year.
tease.
You get to watch playoff
It's a
football
tease.
almost every year. Not
It's like
many
the
teams, not many fans get to do
Dude,
that.
it's like the
So,
ice cream truck pulls up to your house. You ask for a SpongeBob ice cream bar. They're like, "Yeah, we have one. Let me go in the back and get you one." And they go like, "Sorry, we don't have it anymore. They ran out." That's what it is like being a Yankee slash Cowboys fan.
that's
That's what it
that's
is.
so bad. So
Like
bad
it's
because
a
there's
tease.
there's
It's a
so
tease.
I know. But there's so many other people out there that are fans of so much worse teams.
Just gotta get
Like
better. I don't have to tell them.
like in
I was
terms
telling
of
him, yeah.
baseball, if you were a fan of the Chicago White Sox,
No, no,
you are screwed.
no. I
There
I
is
could.
no future. If you were a fan of the Giants, You definitely experienced Giants or Jets this year. Definitely experienced that.
Giants have won a
Jaguars
Super Bowl
fans,
more recently than the Cowboys.
stop. Okay,
Uh,
stop.
That's the truth.
I mean, good for you. Yes, good.
That's
But
the truth.
the Giants really haven't been great. There's so many. My point is, so many fans out there that have to support
Look,
so
yeah,
much worse teams than to
I'm
see
I'm
than
half
you to
joking. I'm
complain
half
when your
joking.
team makes the playoffs
Dog, it's
every
half.
every
I'm
single year.
half joking. I'm half joking.
The
Half.
backtrack is crazy.
I'm half
Yeah.
joking.
So then, so
I'm
then,
half joking.
since you wanna bring up the Cowboys, why don't you
Okay,
just
let's
move it
talk.
on? Move it on.
I love how I just made the whole segment a Cowboy segment. That's funny. Sorry, but anyway, let's actually talk about the Cowboys now. So America's team, the Cowboys, they just let Mike McCarthy go. My initial reaction to this was I was like ecstatic. You could tell everybody. Like I was, I actually sent in the Patrick Beverly meme. He takes off the jersey, swings it around, dancing. Like it was awesome. And then Aiden dropped the bomb on me. He's like, well, actually, Dak, Micah, and C, they all liked Mike McCarthy. And Michael Parsons talked about it on his podcast. And then I was like, shit, wait, is this actually a good move then? Like, is this W? Is this W, L, or N? Like, what should I think here? What should I think here? So, pretty much, Mike McCarthy, Aiden, you know him very well as a Packers fan. As a Packers fan,
Hate
Mike
that man. I hate
McCarthy,
him.
you hate him?
I do hate him. That
Well,
fat man. Fat man has sold so many of our playoffs runs, and I will never forgive him for that. Rodgers should have more than one ring, and I will live and die by that.
see, Dak should have 5 rings with under Mike McCarthy at least. That's a joke. That is a joke. Legal reasons.
I
That's a
was about
joke.
to say.
That's a joke.
I was about to
But
say.
in the 5 years as Mike McCarthy as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, they made the postseason 3 out of the 5 times. They were 12-5 every year they made the playoffs. Sorry, I'm stumbling a little bit, but they're 12-5 every year they made the playoffs with Mike McCarthy as the head coach. Really, no improvement along those lines. I genuinely thought last year was the year. Like I said everywhere, oh, this is the year, and I was like so confident last year, and like I said, ice cream truck never happens. But now we have to look on to the future. Mike McCarthy's gone. He's getting interviewed by the Bears. Maybe he goes to the Jets. That's actually our next topic. We'll get into that in a bit. But now we have to think, what is next for the Cowboys in terms of a head coach? Is it going to be Coach Prime? They're going to get Deion Sanders? Are they going to get Jason Witten, former Cowboy legend? They're going to get Robert Saleh, the former Jets head coach. What are they going to do? And then I have a fun little topic on the dock for the Cowboys that I'm highlighting because we just got to talk about it. So, Jason Witten, do you think he'd be a good head coach, Aiden?
I don't.
He's never coached before in his career. He's recently
No
retired, as we
experience
know.
coaching.
I
I
think he
don't
coached
think
high
so.
school.
I don't think so. Because you're not just a coach when you're a head coach in the NFL. It's a little more than that. You're kind of like involved with the GM quite a bit, which is
That's true.
why usually when they go through firings, they don't fire the GM almost immediately. It usually goes coach then GM
Hmm.
if they do find that the GM needs to get fired. But I don't know. No experience doesn't really. There's so many more guys with experience. Heck, put Jerry Jones as the actual coach of the Cowboys.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry just like came out and like, fuck it, I'm coaching this year. I would not be surprised. And I would fall to the floor and you'd never see me again. But as you
That's your
said,
owner.
Jason Witten does he have a good relationship with Jerry? I don't know how close they actually are, but I read somewhere that like Jason Witten was always in talks to be on the Cowboys coaching staff, whether it was as an assistant coach or be the heir to Mike McCarthy when he eventually leaves. I read that report today or yesterday. So it seemed like Jason Witten was always going to be in the cards for the Cowboys, but now that Mike McCarthy is gone, maybe he actually takes that next step and becomes the head coach. As a Nets fan, they hired a great player in Steve Nash as the head coach. And just because you're a great player doesn't always translate into being a good coach. Just because you might have knowledge of the game doesn't mean that you can translate from being a player to coach almost immediately after retirement. So I don't know if Jason Witten is the best option here. What do we think of Coach Prime? What do you think? What do you think?
He's definitely a TikTok head coach. That's not to say what he's done isn't extremely smart though. I mean, if you didn't have Coach Prime, a lot of those players that play for Colorado definitely wouldn't have played. I mean, his name brings people over there. The NIL money goes to his name as well. Like his
Mhm.
name is bringing in money. I don't know if he's a great fit for Dallas, and also for Jason Witten. I don't think Jason Witten would be a great coach, but I don't think he should be a head coach. I mean, Witten was really smart. Witten was always open. I think he'd like make a great like position coach, like for a tight end coach, but definitely not head coach. That's like a stretch too far. But
Mhm.
Dion Prime, I'd say you probably have to go with someone. I don't. I know it's probably not viable, and haven't followed up with it too much. But Shanahan's job in San Francisco is being questioned.
That would be
I
cool.
mean, that would be quite great. I wouldn't say it's an upgrade. I would say it's an upgrade. You might not believe it. I don't like McCarthy, so anything's better than McCarthy.
No,
But
I would say it's an upgrade. I would say it's an upgrade.
definitely Coach Prime, he couldn't. I won't say I'm bashing him, but he couldn't lead the Colorado to a national play or the playoffs. So I don't think he's ready quite yet to be, especially with the pressure that comes for of being a high like profile organization like the Cowboys. It's like in New York how there's just the New York pressure. That's almost addition the same for Cowboys because they're the biggest fan base or
Like the
bandwagon.
Yankees, yeah. Yeah.
They're all bandwagons, but yeah.
I'm not a bandwagon. I would never, if I got to bandwagon any team, I would never pick the Cowboys. I do not wish this pain onto anyone.
Yeah. Dude, to any of these options, I have no idea. On to tell you the honest truth, I'm not gonna sugarcoat.
Hey, you're honest, yeah.
Um, I mean, Jason Witten, I know of him. I know he
Mhm.
was a good player when he did play. I don't think he's the best option out of those three to be the coach that is on the board. But Coach Prime, again, Aiden, I honestly agree with you. I think you said it perfectly. He's a TikTok coach. Honestly, I don't think he has what it takes to lead an NFL team. I don't think Jason Witten has what it takes to lead an NFL team. Robert Saleh, such a question mark too, only because like I mean he had a lot of people questioning if it was the team, if it was the Jets team that was bad or was it the coach? And clearly it wasn't the coach. It wasn't the coach problem because they played the exact same when Saleh left. So do they go the Robert Saleh route? I mean you could try it out. I don't know. I don't know if that would do you any good. I don't know if it'd be an upgrade over McCarthy, but out of those three, if I had to choose gun to my head, I'd
Jerry
probably
Jones.
pick no, I'd probably pick the one with the most
Shoot the gun.
experience, which is
Shoot the gun
Robert
if it's
Saleh.
Jerry.
I'd probably
I
pick
looked
Robert
it up,
Saleh.
and apparently they're looking at the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. And judging by how well I've
Oh,
saved
please
the
no,
Eagles'
that's Kellen
offense,
Moore, right?
that is Kellen Moore. But I'd say this guy hates the Eagles, so that would be funny. But you have
No,
to look at how the Eagles' offense was this season, though.
yeah, but no, because Kellen Moore was also he was on the Cowboys before he was on the Eagles.
Right.
He was our offensive coordinator, and I believe he was the offensive coordinator, and he like ran it to the ground. Like he was good and then he wasn't. So like when he left, I just remember like clearly just all of Dallas having a celebration. Like they had their own Patrick Beverly moment. Like everyone was celebrating, like, yo, let's go. Now he can go terrorize the Eagle fans. But I think that's just more of the Eagles being good than Kellen Moore, to be totally honest. Um, I don't really want Kellen Moore. I don't.
The other guy was I won't know him, and Leslie Frazier on the Seahawks, the
Seahawks,
assistant
yeah.
head coach.
I saw that
I
too. Hmm.
I don't I mean that's experience, but
I don't know
I
too
don't
much
I don't
about
know.
Leslie. Don't know
I
too
mean, yeah, I
much.
don't know that much, so
But
Yeah,
mhm.
I don't know too much about him either. I don't know both the guys you mentioned. I don't even know. But regardless of that, Matt, you wanna talk about the next portion of that topic?
Oh yeah, the fun part.
The
This
fun
is a
part, yeah.
joke. We can keep this really short. This just plays into my delusion a little bit. I have to play the character of delusional Cowboys fan a little bit. It comes with the job description. I'm not actually this delusional, folks. Signing up to be a Yankees and Cowboys fan, you have to be delusional every now and then. Like otherwise, you're not an actual like true fan of the team. But let's talk about let's talk about Tyreek Hill because Aiden is also like a. I don't want to say he's a Dolphin. He's not. You're like part. Like you have like some allegiance
My
to the.
family is all Dolphins fans. Yeah.
Yeah. So Aiden can also a little. He can touch on this a little bit. He has some Dolphins blood in him a little bit. Um, do the Cowboys get Tyreek Hill?
Long story. Well, no, I don't want to make this too long, but I was at the game, that final Dolphins versus Jets game, and I believe you were there too.
I was
You
working
were
there.
there. That's
Yeah.
where I saw
hmm
you.
hmm
And I was whatever. I mean, I'm not there to root for the Dolphins. My family is and whatever. But I didn't see Tyreek come back out after like the what three, two and a half, 3 quarters. And I looked over to my brother and my father, and I'm like, what happened? And then it was after the game where I mean everybody heard about it. Tyreek's doors open. I don't know how true that is because he just blurted it out in the moment. A lot of the players do that. Like George Pickens was funny, but Tyreek, I don't know why he left Kansas City. I'll say that. I mean, he was set up for rings and rings in Kansas City. He's definitely, if he does leave Miami, and I don't think Miami will be too hindered by losing him. I think the Cowboys are an option. I don't know who it was. Was it Micah Parsons that said come to Miami?
Yeah, it was him.
Micah Parsons is
That's
like
it.
your best recruiter. He's better than Jerry and he's better than McCarthy.
Dude,
He's like,
he's recruiting everyone on the pie. Like he keeps tweeting at people like, "Yo, you'd love it in Dallas. That's my goat."
just take a pay cut, Micah. Come on.
Yeah, he needs to. Dak and CD making too much. I
Dak,
paid for CD's contract with this jersey.
I don't think Dak deserves that money. Dak definitely doesn't.
He's top three quarterback in the league.
I'm not
You
going
can't
into
even say
that.
that with a
But
straight face.
No. That's neither here or there. Top two in MVP last year. Anyway, continue.
but yeah, I think for Tyreek Hill to go to Count Dallas, I think he'd need to have a coach. That coach position needs to be filled. I mean, there's so many question marks. If you can tell me right now that Dallas will make the playoffs next year, then I probably wouldn't believe you. But I'd also say that's got to be what Tyreek's looking for. Tyreek needs playoffs. That's it. He needs to go to the playoffs. That's his legacy. He needs rings,
Mhm. All right.
and that's all I think. Yeah,
Well, if Tyreek Hill is a Cowboy, do not talk to me for a couple days because you guys won't hear the end of it.
But
I'm
you're
just
gonna be
trying to
toxic.
not toxic, but I just won't shut up about it.
you gonna buy a jersey?
Hell yeah. Hey, D's, hey, oh, Tyreek Hill's a Cowboy. Simple. That's my response to everything.
Hey man, go for it. Buy a jersey because I know I did. I know I did. So
That's
buy a jersey. Buy a jersey.
see
Anyways,
like little brother activities like
it's
mentioned like
not little brother activities. I just wanted to just it's right there. It's a neat.
literally see how like no one mentioned the
It,
Mets,
no,
bro,
but
and
it's
like you
just
just brought it up.
it's the same thing. You talked about a jersey. There's a jersey. Boom, right there. You see it back there? It's 22. It's I forget the guy's name.
I see it. I
The
see it. I
Who
don't
is
think.
it? Oh, it's Juan Soto. That's right.
hmm Yeah, what was that?
That's right.
Eight hundred million
That's
dollars
right.
for
No,
third
no, no,
place.
no, no. That's all right. Just leave it at that.
800
It's
million
just
for
a new
third place.
backdrop. It's just a new backdrop for the pod. It's just there now.
It's a ugly
It is
ass
what it is.
backdrop. I can't lie to you.
It's a beautiful backdrop.
You have you see this? That is a backdrop. That's aura. That is the best stadium in baseball.
No, no, no.
You have
This.
a freaking apple in center field, dog. We have we
Who
have
cares?
we have
I find it
retired.
funny. I find it funny how all you Yankee fans point that out every single time about the apple. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Oh, we have Monument Park and you guys
We have
got
the
an apple.
ghosts of legendary
Nobody
players
cares.
in center field.
Hey, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. How many rings you have? That's what I thought. Anyway, next topic.
Next topic, fine.
See how he dies on. Yeah, okay. All right, the final topic. This one we want to talk about for a minute. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. Aiden, once again, you know so much about Aaron Rodgers, being a Packers fan. So this is honestly like the perfect pod for you. We got
It really
Packers talk.
was.
We got Rodgers, Mike McCarthy. We got so much. This is the perfect pod for you. Are you ready? Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. So the Jets finished 5-12 this year. Is that disappointing, or did you expected that? And then me and Zach are gonna touch on that after you're done.
I don't think anybody had them finishing. I mean, every single person I talked to before this year started said Aaron Rodgers is the missing piece. The Jets might make the playoffs, which is laughable. That isn't now looking back on it. That's hilarious.
Hmm.
Um, I was at this game again, the final game of the Jet season, and might I say that the fans were not happy. I think there weren't even any Jets fans. That whole stadium was blue.
I
You
can
work there,
confirm.
so yeah, I was gonna say you
I
probably
can
counted
confirm. Yeah.
thousands,
Hmm.
but Aaron Rodgers definitely he's not their long term guy, and I think they knew that bringing him in. But then they also got rid of Zach Wilson, and I think Zach Aaron Rodgers kind of wanted to mentor Zach Wilson. Now he has to mentor. I don't even know who's on the backup on the Jets. Is that
Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod
yeah?
Taylor, right? Yeah.
Pretty sure it's
Tyrod
Tyrod
Taylor
Taylor.
has no need to be mentored. He's been in the
Yeah,
league for like
exactly.
12 years. He's been on like 40 different
Hmm.
teams, more teams than there are. Like, but it's Rodgers. Whether or not they keep him, it's going to be another like 1 or 2 year deal. It probably won't even be a two. It'll be another 1 year deal. But with Rodgers goes Devontae. Do you keep Devontae? Do you lose Devontae? I mean, 5-12 is probably the worst result you could have probably thought of with that team. They looked really bad when I played in that. Watched them play the game too until they started pick. Like that first quarter was atrocious,
Hmm.
and then Rodgers turned into vintage Rodgers, and I watched them win. I may have watched Aaron Rodgers' final game.
You might have. You might
Hmm.
have. And let us share some light on this. So me and Matt before the season started did a little segment where we predicted the Jets record.
Hmm.
And
Specifically the Jets.
what
Yes.
we came up with, we went down the row of each team they play, and we thought highly of the Jets. We actually had them going 11-7, which may make you spit that drink out and throw up all over the floor. We had them going 11-7, but at the bare minimum, at the end of the day, at the end of the video, we said they may not be 11-7, but they will for sure make the playoffs. That's what everybody thought. That's what everybody thought. Everybody and their mother thought. You could not have predicted the year was going to go the way the year went. They had a stacked roster. They had so many good guys. They were trying to get back Hassan Reddick, and they had such a good roster, and they just couldn't put it together. And I think one of the turning point games for them, and this was before we really like knew that Bo Nix was going to be really good. He was starting to come into it. It was when Bo Nix and the Broncos beat the Jets. That to me, I was there for that. That's when the we specifically at where we work, MetLife. The fan influx went way down. It just went way down.
Was
That's
that when they missed the field goal?
Yep.
I
That's yeah,
remember that.
that
That
game.
was fun.
That was a
That
turning
was
point for
fun.
them.
Yeah.
That was a turning point game, and it was a very important game that they needed to win, but they didn't win. And I think I don't want to say this because I don't want to mess it up. I think that made them what 2-3 instead of like the 2-2 or I don't know 3-3, something like that. It
Yeah.
didn't. It made them a game under 500, I think. Whatever it was, I think. But that was a turning point for them, and they couldn't pick it up ever since. And then they brought in Devontae, and then the whole thing it was like the season restarted again for Jets fans. Like they were like, "Oh, we could bring this back. We got Devontae now."
We made a pod dedicated to Devontae and
We
how we
did.
thought that the Jets could turn it around. Yeah.
Yeah, they got Devontae, and they were like, "Oh," every Jets fan was like, "Oh, but we're right back. We're right back in this. We could do this. We could do it." And it just didn't work like that. And to anybody who thought that Aaron Rodgers was going to be the savior, you unfortunately made the same mistake that I made with Justin Verlander. I feel like that's a perfect comparison. Is that not Deej, Aiden? Is that not a
That is a
perfect
pretty good
comparison?
comparison.
Both
Yeah.
old as hell, both injury prone, and both. I thought Justin Verlander was going to be terrific for 2 years, and we
Was
didn't even
was
have We didn't even have him for half a year. We didn't even have him for half a year.
That's the Mets' fault,
Yeah.
flat out.
Well, regardless of whose
Like
fault it
the Met,
was,
like a pitcher cannot like Aaron Rodgers controls like the flow of the game. You know what I mean? Because he's the quarterback. But like Justin Verlander, like the Mets just sucked. Like capital Sucked. They just sucked. That's why they had to trade Verlander.
well, there was a lot of things that played into that, and a lot of it came
The
from.
the
A lot of
Mets
it came
netting,
from.
yeah. Mhm.
No, no, because no, you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. It wasn't just because the Mets were metting. It was because just things weren't going our way, and like we no, but you don't understand. Like we didn't have Diaz to start off the year. Verlander went on the IL. We lost everything. We lost everything, majority of everything. So when that shit happens, shit goes out sideways. But I want to stay on topic here because
Yeah,
you.
I do too.
I want to stay on topic. The Rodgers, if he does, if he is the Jets quarterback next season, I my only advice to Jets fans would be if he is the quarterback next season, don't expect much. Don't expect to be contenders. Don't expect to be going to the Super Bowl. Don't expect too much because if you have low expectations, the only place to go from there is pretty much up. And if they outperform and they make it to the playoffs and they make it far, then they had a good year, and that'll probably be if I don't really know how many years Rodgers has left in him. Maybe one, maybe two. That
I
at the
say
most,
one.
two at the most, I think.
I would give
But
him one at the most, my
yeah,
opinion.
Yeah,
he's
I agree.
facing retirement. He's facing retirement, and he's just his career's pretty much over. And the Jets are going to be left scrambling for a QB. They got no one. They got no one in their system. They traded Zach Wilson, even though I know a lot of Jets fans were honestly happy about that. But they got nothing. They got nothing to look forward to in the QB spots. They're gonna be left scrambling in who they will sign. Maybe they get back Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold.
Maybe they get back Sam
Could,
Darnold and
could,
the reunion happens.
could they go for Kirk?
I was
Kirk wouldn't
thinking
be a bad
about that.
option. Kirk wouldn't
I
be a bad
thought
option.
about that.
You know,
But
let Penix be the full time QB, and then they could go after Kirk, a veteran. Maybe that. Who knows?
I think as soon as they put Penix to start, I knew it was over for Kirk. Kirk
Hmm.
was not starting again.
I
So
feel bad for Kirk though, low key,
yeah, I do.
because he really only had that one bad year in Minnesota, right? That was after they made the playoffs. Um, I just feel like they didn't really give him a chance to keep going, and I thought that he could potentially have done really good with Minnesota. He found a home, and they just kind of kicked him to the side. But that's neither here nor there. So, but maybe maybe Kirk for the Jets, maybe Sam Darnold reunion. That I would find that if that were to ever happen, I don't think there's a shot in hell. But if that did happen, I would have no choice but to laugh. That'd be
I
me.
I will go to work with a smile on my face every day.
Because we will have to be making Sam Darnold jerseys.
Every day, Sam Darnold jerseys, man. But that begs the question. Now that we're talking about Sam Darnold, we're talking about Kirk. So, honest to God opinion, do you guys think Rodgers is going to retire? Because after the final Jets game, I was working in the store and they were playing Aaron Rodgers exit interviews, and based off my personal opinion, it sounded like he was done. It really sounded like that the Jets and him were going to go different ways. I think he's going to retire. I don't think a team will pick him up. I maybe the Steelers. Some people were saying on Twitter. I don't know. He kept everything very open ended. Um, we'll just see. But I personally think he might be done. So just straight up, this has been kind of a lengthy pod. So just what do you guys think?
Um, I think there's probably like maybe a little over a 50-50 chance. So maybe like a 60-40 chance that he's done.
Okay.
Um, I think part of him does want to come back next year and does want to give it maybe one more go around because I know 5-12 is definitely not the way he wanted to end his career.
Yeah.
But you got to believe that some part of him wants out. So he won a Super Bowl. He's too old now. There's he just feels burnt out of the league to me. That's what it looks like, at least. So I think there's a good shot that he retires this year. I
I
think
might be
there's a good
taking a shot
chance.
in the dark. But I've seen a couple places where they say because Sam Darnold and Rodgers has, even if he stays with the Jets, he said he would be very open to taking a pay cut. It's not a big problem for him, and this and that. I think if he was to say, and I think he will. I don't think he retires this year. I think he stays with the Jets. Or what I was going to say is I'll shot in the dark, and I think could happen is because Sam Darnold is going to be asking for so much money after his historic season. Does Minnesota buy low on Rodgers? Because you can really
Hmm.
Rodgers is who mentored Jordan Love. Jordan Love's Green Bay's QB of the future as a biased Green Bay fan. Do you bring in Rodgers to mentor JJ McCarthy? I don't know if Rodgers would do it himself. He's been Green Bay his entire life, and to go to our division rivals would suck. But if you as from his point of view, if he starts on Minnesota next year, there's a good chance he could go to the playoffs and make a run at the Super Bowl. Minnesota's going to have a lot of holes. Jets have so many holes that I don't even know where to begin. If I was to discuss what they're missing, quarterback, the wide receivers have been terrible this year. Alan Lazard, Garrett Wilson was okay. I mean, he was good. Devontae's connection with Rodgers was all I really saw on that offense, but it's a mess over there. So whether or not he stays or goes, I don't think he retires.
Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Matt, do you think he's gonna retire?
I mean, based off the interviews, it sounded like it. But like I said, he kept everything open ended. So I wouldn't be surprised if he plays another year, but he's also trying to stay professional. And I honestly think he handled those interviews the best way he possibly could. He was very respectful of the Jets organization, and he said something along the lines of, if they want to move on, if this is it for me, then I will have loved it was something along those lines, just very respectful, very open. So, but like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he's done, but just to me, it sounded like he was done. But I,
I
I
mean, you
don't
could have
think,
just said
yeah.
he might have just been trying to get out. He's like the Jokic. He just wants to go get on his ayahuasca and just forget everything.
And that's true. And he was crying. I don't know if you saw that video, but he was in the locker room
I
crying
didn't.
after. I think it was after his last game, which is weird because like they did win, but he could be thinking like, damn, like this could really be it for me, or like maybe he's just crying because it was a really disappointing year. But there was a video of him crying in the Jets locker room after the final game versus the Dolphins. So maybe that's a sign of whatever. But you can. That's the thing about media is we can interpret it however we like,
Yeah.
which which is not good sometimes.
It's a matter of it's just a question of if he's going to do it, if he's not. I think I actually really like your point, Aiden. If they do decide to do that and he decides to do that and go to the Vikings, it makes sense. It really does. Mentor JJ McCarthy and do the
That would
best
be really cool.
best he can with him for a year. I think that's probably one of his best options that he doesn't even probably know yet. Um, but besides that, if he is the Jets quarterback for another year, it is what it is. I mean, I gotta think that he just doesn't want to end his career the way he did, but at the same time, like age is catching up to him. Father time stops for nobody. So,
What's
well,
crazy to me is he had an MVP what 2 3 years ago, and I think this is like that downfall is just too quick.
Hmm.
It's just
yeah.
insane.
So, I mean, I guess we'll see what he does in the future. Matt, you want to add anything else?
Um, I guess that's really all we need to regarding Rodgers itself. But if you guys want to like briefly touch on Mike McCarthy, if Rodgers stays, could they target Mike McCarthy?
I think it's a
Aiden?
Hmm.
possibility. It's definitely a
They have
possibility.
That
Aiden,
would be
they have
funny.
you
history.
had more on this.
I was gonna say they had history. I mean, Rodgers was under McCarthy,
Hmm.
and I hated that. I hated McCarthy for it. But if he goes for that, that would also mean the Jets are investing in a 1 year all in again. But they're not all in because who else besides Rodgers and Devontae do they have besides their defense? They're really just it's like throwing a rock at like a wall. You're not going to break the wall. That's a terrible analogy, but You can't
I
do
I
anything.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. But with that being said, that is the end of episode 43. Thank you, Aiden, so much for coming on.
Thank you, Aiden.
We
Thank
really
you guys.
appreciate it, giving us some more light on these football topics. But it's been a fun one. There's going to be another episode next week, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Again, like Matt said in the beginning of the pod, TikTok is shutting down, so if that does happen, please make sure to check out our YouTube and our Instagram and follow our content from there. Videos will still go up as normal. But besides
Regularly
that,
scheduled, yeah. Mhm.
regularly scheduled videos. Besides that, we will catch you guys next week in episode 44.